Well, our reading this today, I was going to say this morning, but some of you are watching in the afternoon, isn't that wonderful? Our reading for today is the Prodigal Son, which, if you grew up in church, like I did, is a very popular passage. I think it's quoted as one of the most popular parables that Jesus proclaimed, and certainly one of the most popular scripture references for preachers to use in sermons. But I have to be honest, I think that over the last 50 years, our approach as a church, and certainly as preachers, has shifted when it comes to this passage. 50 years ago, the focus was primarily on the younger son, the prodigal, the one that goes away and then returns home, as in the common name for it. But like I said, over the last 50 years, we've shifted the focus. Most sermons now, I would suspect, would begin with a recognition of the younger son and the situation, the implications of what it means that he says to his father, "I just wish you'd die." I mean, that's what he's saying. I want my inheritance now. It's his way of saying, I wish you'd just go ahead and die, and I could get what I want, get what's coming to me. Not only those implications, but would refer to, all the trials and tribulations he goes through because of his choices, that lowest of all low rock bottom moments when he, as a Jewish man, is feeding pigs and says, gosh, I'm so hungry, I wish I could eat the pig food. I mean, you don't get any lower than that. So most preachers would refer to those things, and they refer to, isn't it wonderful how the father embraces the younger son? But pretty quickly, we turn our attention in modern sermons to the older brother, the hardworking, dutiful, judgmental older brother. I think that's because many preachers assume that the people who are sitting in the multi-purpose room or in the sanctuary, remember back when we used to do that? We'd actually sit in the room. Well, they would think that the people who are listening to the sermon in those moments probably identify more with the older brother than they do the younger brother. See, pastors assume that the people in church that are members of church or attend worship are more likely the hardworking, judgmental types. Well, I have to tell you, I believe it's in our church's best interest to return the focus to the younger son. And that's because one of the biggest problems, I think, that we have as a mainline church is that we act like we have it all together. You come to church and what do you see? People who look clean and well coiffed and everything's, hello, how are you? And hello, how are you? And we act like life's just great and everything's wonderful. You ask us about our family, they're great, thanks. We might occasionally mention some struggle through a prayer request, but for the most part, we like to act as if everything's swimmingly. We're just wonderful. But we know that's not true. One thing I've learned in ministry, every family, and see, as I say this, I guarantee you, some of you don't believe me, every family in this and every church has struggles, has brokenness. Every single person has pain and sorrow and issues that they're struggling with. And a lot of us have been the younger son at different points in our life. And it's a real shame that we aren't capable of acknowledging that in our worship settings and in our church life as a whole. We would be such a more welcoming community, a more grace-filled community if we would acknowledge that we are the younger son. And yes, some of us are also the older brother, right? We have that judgmental side as well. But it would do us a world of good to remember those times when we were at our rock bottom, those times when we were broken and weren't sure there was any hope. Those times when we could sing that wonderful song, Lord, I'm wasted and I can't find my way home.
Come down off your throne and leave your body alone. somebody hold the key. But I need it, and I just ain't got time, Lord. And I'm wasted, and I can't find my way home. And I'm near the end, and I just ain't got time, oh. And I'm wasted, and I can't find my way home.
You know, that word wasted has a lot of different meanings, doesn't it? I mean, not only is it addiction, alcohol, which, by the way, I am a firm believer that this pandemic quarantine, we're going to emerge out of it with a lot more alcohol addictions and drug abuse, not just illegal drugs, but prescription drugs as ways of coping have become really hard to come by. But I'm wasted also refers to financial destitution, emotional destruction in our life, spiritual emptiness, those moments when circumstances beyond our control take us to places where we feel so alone, whether it's divorce or disease or the death of a loved one. There's a lot of different ways to feel that song rise up in us, to feel, I can't find my way home. But that shouldn't surprise us. I mean, that's part of our biblical heritage as well. I'd like to remind you of all those passages in the matriarch and patriarchal stories about our great forebears who are just desperate and find themselves at their wits' end. How about all the lament psalms that were to call out to God to express pain and brokenness? This is one example. It's from Psalm number 6. O Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger or discipline me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am languishing. O Lord, heal me, for my bones are shaking with terror. My soul is also struck with terror, while you, O Lord, how long? I am weary with my moaning. Every night I flood my bed with tears. I drench my couch with weeping. My eyes waste away because of grief. It's the human condition. And you couple those individual laments with the story of how the children of Israel went into exile in Babylon, where they quite literally weren't sure if God was even with them anymore. It is our human condition to recognize that there are moments in our life when we feel brokenness, and we're not sure if it's going to be possible to be mended again, let alone be made part of a community who will love us. Don't some of us have those memories of our life? Or quite honestly, some of us are there right now. And that's what I just wish. I wish we as a church would acknowledge our humanity long enough so that we could say to anyone who's watching now that if you are in that place where you're the younger son and you have reached the rock bottom, let me remind you of that part of that scripture passage that says, in that rock bottom place, he came to himself and he turned to go back to his loving parent. That's what we believe. We believe with all our hearts that there are moments when we can come to ourselves, that we were created for something more than that rock bottom experience of our life. And if you're right there, I want you to know you are not alone. There are quite a few of us in this congregation who know exactly what that feels like. And for all of us who maybe remember what that feels like, how powerful it would be if we could be that church that understood that pain, that destitution, and we could create a soft landing spot for everyone in this community. That we wouldn't think when I'm broken or struggling or one of my children gets arrested or I get arrested, oh, I can't show my face at church because, oh my gosh, they have their life all together. No, we would know better than that. We would know that every single person in this congregation understands what it's like to feel alone, to feel like they don't know where to turn. So let our prayer be in this quarantine experience as we prepare, hopefully in these coming months, to be back together. But even when we're doing it virtually, let us create the kind of community where we are honest about our pain, honest about our brokenness, and create that place where we can truly welcome all people right where they are into this place of home. Amen.